we're in this together. We're on the same track. I'm just a little further. But right now I'm turning around and coaxing you to come to where I am. I've been to maybe 5 rehabs, and over that amount of time, I've learned a lot from each rehab. I went to 4 of them were 30-day rehabs, and if I went by just insurance, New York gives you like 7 days to 14 days. That's not enough time. I would actually, with the rehabs, I would be going to courts and everything, so I would go to my judge and I would ask them to mandate it so that I would at least get those 28 days, almost 30, 28. That's still not enough. In the beginning I thought it was, and I could get out because you feel great. But there's ups and downs, and at 30 days you're feeling up, that you could do it, but there's going to be another down. And that's why I think at least 60 to 90, if not longer. I went into my last rehab, I went into a 90-day program, so 3 months. I did not do the full 3 months. They found me a bed in a sober living home after, I believe, 72 days. I'm sorry, I've been very emotional today. I cried because I didn't think I was ready. I didn't want to leave. I had it going really good in that rehab, and I was scared. If we're scared, it's just because we haven't done something yet. I knew all my triggers, or most of them at least. Death is a really big trigger for me. I used to think I was cursed because everybody I gave my full heart to, my entire heart, died. I don't know why the universe did that. In this last recovery, I've had 2 very close friends. Three very close friends die. 2 of them got hit by a car. 1 of them, cancer, alcoholism. It sucks. It sucks when things happen that want to bring you back to where you're trying to get out of. I used for many years. In that amount of time, I believe that trauma, using substances to cope with that trauma, I believe that really has an impact on your mental health. And I don't mean like, oh yeah, I'm depressed. I mean like, I heard voices a lot. Some of them were comforting. They came in from inside my head. I knew where they were. I'm assuming it was my other sides, multiple personality. It's easier than saying DID. A lot of people don't know what DID is unless you have it. I don't hear them anymore. And sometimes I miss that. I have a lot of silence all the time. And that I've never had that. Even when I was really young, I had, it was like when you walk into a crowded restaurant or a crowded bar, you can't pinpoint any specific conversation going on, but it was just conversations all mashed together. That was constantly going on inside my head, like a crowded restaurant inside my head. I read part of a journal once during my using, pretty heavy in it. It was when I was using heroin, because I've changed it up. You know, you could always say, oh, I quit this, but if you just start something else, you're just changing what you're addicted to. Be a substance, alcohol, cocaine, heroin, sex. Use sex as an addiction for a long period of time. But it was one of my worst during my heroin addiction. That went on about a decade. There was some gaps in between where I had gone to rehab and gotten clean. You know, each time I was clean longer and longer, but it didn't stick. But I read back in this journal that I had written in, and it says, like, I hear the girls, and I know where they're coming from. They're coming from inside my head. I can hear them in there. But it was a new thing. I heard a guy, and it frightened me because it wasn't coming from inside. I heard it as if he was in the room with me. And there was no one in the room with me. There was no one there. But I would always hear this voice. Mental illness comes hand in hand with addiction. Sometimes you have the mental illness and it leads you to addiction. I'm doing all my, ADHD and anxiety and all that without medication, because medication is a trigger for me. Because eventually, they could up the dose, they can change it, they can up the dose. But eventually that medication that is working so well for me that they keep on having to up the dose because my body adjusts to it and makes it that it doesn't work. It eventually doesn't work. And then because I'm so used to taking something to deal with my anxiety or deal with my ADHD, I go and I self-medicate, some kind of drug. So it's a trigger for me, along with death. The tops of water bottles, if they're not on the water bottle, if they're just there, that's a trigger for me. Not a trigger like it's going to bring me back to it at this point. More like a trigger like I don't want to see that memory of that part of my life. I think that's a big part of moving on and getting better. To stop surrounding yourself with the things that you did, with the people you did it with. So the rehabs, 30 days, 28 days I would get, and I would get out and I'd go back to living with my boyfriend at the time. Even if he was clean, he got clean because I got clean. There was one of us that would be weak for a moment, and that could take the other one out. Even with NA and AA, going in there and constantly talking about it. My uncle, he was a crack addict. He never went into NA, because the second someone would say crack, that was where his mind went. It wasn't recovery, it was crack, 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 crack. So he would have to go out and use. So he, tried to find his recovery in AA, but at least in there they didn't say crack. At least in there they didn't say his trigger that would make him run that night to it. It didn't help in the end, because if someone really can't get out of their addiction, they're going to find a way to get out of their life. But I feel like the whole point of doing drugs is because you want a better life. You're not liking the life that you're in right now. Every time I didn't like the life I was in at that moment, this is going through high school, I would change everything about me. I mean everything. I would cut my hair, I would dye it, I would change my boyfriend, I would move into a different place, different town. I would find different friends. Still keep the old good ones. I have a best friend that's been there since I was 5. There were times where we didn't talk as much because I'm going this way, she's going this way. Well, let me change that. She's going this way, I'm going this way. You change the things you need to. I really wanted to stop. I was really done. I remember it. My rock bottom was having neither of my children, homeless, living under a tree at the park in January in the desert. So freezing cold at night, extremely hot during the day. That was a very small amount of time I was under that tree until I found someone that helped me. Lovely lady, and she took me in. And I got into this last rehab that I went to. And like I said, each rehab I went to, I learned things from. I still have the books from them. I just didn't stay long enough. I didn't continue with things I should have. You know, I always came back home to my boyfriend at the time, who's now still my best friend. He's clean, I'm clean. You can't go back to where you were thinking you can still stay better, still get better. I know they always say, you know, take the suggestions. I'm just going to tell you what finally worked for me. After years of detoxes, I mean, I detoxed over 30 times. I've been to 4 rehabs, and then this last 5th one, so 5 total. This last 5th one, because I hit my rock bottom, I was finally ready. I was really listening. The rehabs that I went to before that, one of them I went multiple times, and they knew me. They knew that the first 2 weeks I'm gonna be erratic and violent and until my medications finally kicked in. And then I was okay the last 2 weeks. You know, I remember, you know, it was my second time going into that rehab, and I had gotten into a fight with one of the counselors at night, and slammed my door and just screaming. And all the other clients were like, what's with this chick? Like, why isn't she getting kicked out? And it's because they knew I had to go through that anger stage. But then it was just capped with some kind of medication they put me on. This last 5th rehab, where I was ready, that's a big trick. You gotta really be ready. No reservations. You know, in all these other rehabs, you know, I kept phone numbers in my phone. I literally had a reservation that when I'm 80, I can go back to it, because then I lived a life and I can, you know, by 80, who cares? I no longer have that reservation, because if I live to 80, I want to keep going with my good life that I've built for myself. For this 3-month program that I went into, well, the inpatient program, during this time, in the beginning, because of it being a CPS case, I was forced to take medication or abide. I had to comply. And I literally was on the phone with my caseworker, my CPS caseworker, and said, if you want me to take drugs to comply, okay, I'll take drugs. Because in my mind, all those medications were drugs to me. If it brought me somewhere else, it's all a drug, and it's going to bring me eventually to the drug when I'm off of it. So I took the medication. I will say I did not take it every day. We had to wear the masks back then. So I would just put it into my mask like I put it in my mouth, and then pull the mask down, show her that I took it, but really it's in my mask. There was a few times where I put it in and it fell out the bottom of the mask, and I was like, oh, whoop, and I picked it up, and then I was like, oh, well, don't want to get caught for this, so I showed that I actually put it in my mouth. So there were a few days where I put it in my mouth and I swallowed it. And on those days, I would scream. I would be yelling at the counselor. And I remember one of the counselors, Miss Maureen was her name, and she's sitting there and I'm screaming in her face, I'm sorry! I can't help it, it's the medication. I couldn't help but to communicate by screaming. That's what the medication did to me. How is that helpful? So I let it was 30 days in and the medication ran out. I did not go back to the psych because psych didn't listen to me. I told him I don't like being tired, you know, I don't get anxiety every day. He had me taking an anxiety medication that was every single day. Well, if I don't have it every day, why are you giving it to me every day? And then that is going to make me tired. And then there was the, I guess, bipolar medication that if I took, it made me incredibly angry, that they would have me take it at night because it makes you tired. I'm like, I don't like that part of it. You know, I don't like the tiredness. I don't like being tired. This morning, I wanted to go right back to bed. after getting my kid to school. I didn't. I I make a shake and I exercised and I got in the shower and I'm up and I'm recording and I'm not sleeping that when I wake up I'm gonna regret all the time that I just wasted from my day. So I let the medication run out and I didn't go back to the psych doctor, and it was about 15 days maybe 30 days, so I was like 60 days in. But my counselor had said, you know, when's the last time you had medication? I was like, oh, like 20, 30 days ago, you know. And she goes, oh, you're much better. I said, I know, thank you. That's why I didn't want to take it to begin with. And then I had to be forced to comply by CPS, but we're not getting into CPS today because I could talk about that. If anybody's out there and your kids are in the system, fight. Fight as hard as you can because they're fighting to keep your kid. It's not going to work if you're staying out on the streets. It's not going to work if you're just half-assing it. You got to go full on. You know, in this rehab, there was a core members. You know, out of the 32 women, the smallest amount of us would be 13. But the largest amount, there was 32 women in there. And there were 9 of us. 9 of us that were, you know, the higher ups. The ones that you spoke to about something, specific stuff for each person. In the beginning I was OC, office coordinator, so I would print up all the phase work and all the work that we had to do and hand it out to everybody. I love that, organization and filing and papers, and I don't like filling out papers, that's annoying. But but I realized that the women that were house and maintenance, which if someone leaves, you know, you collapse their bed, not the bed, but you take everything off the mattress and you clean up the room and get it ready for the next person that's going to come up from detox or anything. They were not getting, each class that we had, you get like points. Like, oh, you made it to this class, okay. And at the end of the week, you have to have at least 9 points. And I think the max you could have is 15 if you go over it to all of them. But you have to have at least 9 to show you've been going to each of your classes. You know, the counselor checks it at the end. You have a personal counselor. All the other house and maintenance girls were for one, they were shorter. I think that was harder for them. Like, yeah, they're twin-sized beds, but like they're doing one corner and then the other corner. And then I would literally like put the 2 corners on and then pull it down and put the other 2 corners on. Do this with the sheet, and in 2 seconds I got a bed made because it's a tiny twin-sized bed. But for a tinier girl, that's gonna be a lot more work. Also, I had a cleaning business for like 20 years. I was doing cleaning. So I'm used to quick cleaning. Good, but quick. So I was able to, when they said, hey, we're getting new people coming upstairs, you gotta do this room and this room. Okay, and they pull you out of class to do this so that they could get the people coming. So I would do the rooms and then be right back in the same class. And I would be there in the beginning. And it missed a little bit, but got there at the end. So I got the credit for the class. So at the end of my weeks, I had 13, 14 and a half points. And they were like, how do you have so much more points than everybody else? It's because I wanted it. I wanted to get as much information out of all these classes as I could. I actually got good information that I always wondered, like, why does my brain do that? Why could I stop alcohol? No problem. Stop cocaine? No problem. But I couldn't stop heroin. And one of the teachers, I don't know what to call them, but he wasn't a counselor, he was one of the therapists, but he taught classes. So he explained that your brain can just pick something. Be like, yes, I like that. I want that. Just your brain, not you. Because you got to see yourself different from your brain, because your brain does things from consistency. Your brain takes, this happened after this 2 times. So it's just going to say, okay, that means this is going to happen after this. It's just taught. Your brain is trained, and you can train it for different things. I think it was really hard going into recovery when I had a boyfriend, because I always wanted to go back to that boyfriend when I got out of recovery. Honestly, if you really want it, you gotta separate yourself from your significant other. I know that sounds bad, but there's places that you go into a rehab and you can't talk to family even for 30 days. I don't really talk to much family anymore. Sometimes the family are the ones that help trigger you. Sometimes when you think someone wants something good for you, oh yeah, get into rehab, you'll get clean. But some people after that, they don't want to see you do better than them. I would love to see you all do better than me, because you can. You could do better. You're worth more than what you really think. The reason why I did drugs is because there was something I didn't like about me. I always loved myself. There's something I didn't like. I'm trying to learn what that is and work through it. The amount of things that I've had taken from me in all of my usage, it brings you right back to it. You know, okay, so I've had over 4+ years, February will be 5 years clean. And I'm never gonna stop, keep going. Because the second I do, whether it's 5, 10, 15 years, it doesn't take very long to have everything you've gained in those 5, 10, 15 years of being clean taken away. And I mean everything. Before this, I had 3 years, 2.5. I round up to 3, but my son was not 3. He was turning 2. I was pregnant with him, so it was like 2 years, 9 months. I had a home. I had a car. I had my son. I had love. I had family. My mom died, and death being a trigger, when I had those 2.5 years clean, yes, I changed everything about, I moved, and I had my child, and I was happy, and I was joyous. And I didn't think I'd go back to it. But you know what? That one thing that triggers you, that one thing that happens, and all you need is a weak moment. I may have gotten clean, but I still had, my best friend was a heroin addict. And I always said, no, I don't want it. No, I don't want it. I would buy him his, so he was good, so we can hang out. Because I didn't want him being sick while we hung out. When my mom died, it destroyed me. She's definitely someone I gave my full heart to. She was always there for me. She loved me no matter what. She told me once, if you kill anybody, let me know. I'll hide you. Don't worry. That's crazy because I would never hurt. Like, I don't even know if I can go hunting because I don't think I could kill the animal. People were scared that was going to happen because my anger was so... I'm a Taurus. There's a bull in me. And I'd get you with my horns if I was mad at you. So I didn't last very long after she died to stay clean. I asked my friend to move in with me so I wasn't alone. I was taking care of my mom when she was sick. And it was just one day. He was using, and I was like, can I have some? I want some. Had my lowest point, went to this rehab, learned as much as I could. I went into the sober living house and I continued outpatient. It was a long time of outpatient. Then I continued aftercare. I wasn't going to do aftercare. That's like where you come in, get checked, check out. You don't really go to any classes or anything. You just have one counselor you talk to and your therapist. And that was the reason why I stayed in aftercare, was the therapist. And I hung out with, other sober people and people that got clean, people from the rehab, people from the outpatient, people from aftercare, people from the cafe that was right adjacent to it. There was a cafe and they did NA meetings in the room right next door. And then behind the cafe was the outpatient place. I spent a lot of my days in this cafe. And I'm not even a coffee drinker. I'd drink a cup of coffee and then go into my therapist's appointment and be like, I didn't relapse, I just had one of Tony's coffees, you know? And she knew she couldn't even drink Tony's coffees because they were too much for her. She would have monsters. She's like, oh yeah, they'd get to me. But that's because, you know, I'm asking for a coffee with 4 shots of espresso in it. I don't really even drink coffee now. I changed not only where I was and who my friends were, but I changed my entire mindset. People, if you start using, I can't be friends with you, because my sobriety and getting my children back was more important than a friendship. And it should be for you too. Where are your priorities? What do you really want? Because if you really, really, really want it, you'll do everything you can to get it. Try to do it the right way. You know, and what's the right way? How do you know what the right way is? If you did it the wrong way, just try to do opposite that, you know? Like, that's what I did. I worked really hard at seeing what I did wrong. If you're in a race, be the turtle. Because we want to jump through and get to the end real quick. You know, tortoise in the hare. Go slow enough you can see what's going on. Okay, this affects me. How do I get through this? You know, yeah, I have mental illnesses, but they were so much worse. I don't know what it's called when you go from one personality to the next, but like a transition. I don't transition anymore. For me, they were blackouts. I'd be like, I blacked out. I would say I'd lose a lot of time. That's what I would say. I'm losing a lot of time. Well, I didn't even realize at this time that I had multiple personalities to lose the time. That doesn't happen anymore. I forget things, my memory's off, but I really don't lose the time anymore and question, where did that time go? You gotta have a good group of people. You know, not only the counselors, but the people you're in there with. Stick with the people that really want it, not with the ones that you hear have the reservations or that don't seem like they really want it. You can tell when someone wants to leave if they're leaving because they're scared. There was a girl that she wanted to leave. I spoke with her and she stayed, and she is still clean to this day. There were girls that wanted to leave and we let them go because they weren't ready yet, and we didn't need that in our community. I know that might sound bad, like, oh no, we're not helping that person. They're not going to help us. And if they want to go, we let them go. We never, said like, get out of here, you don't belong here. No, they would come across it themselves because they weren't done. Sometimes when you think, I'm not done, I still want to do it, I still want to go. You don't know if you're going to be able to come back, but you really got to be ready. You really got to know what you really want. Because if your priority is, I want to get clean so I can keep a job. Okay. It's for a job. It's for your kids. It should be for you. I want a good life. I think even people who commit suicide, all they want is a better life. You're doing the opposite because you're taking your life away. You can't make it even better. You're just ending it. But you want a better one, don't you? I did. Whenever I would be out in the world, when I was using, I would find my group. Your group can find you. But when I got out of rehab this last time, and I changed my mindset, I was really ready. I would walk down the streets, and I was in San Bernardino. That is not a very good area. And every time walking around San Bernardino, Upland, Fontana, cars would stop. Hey, you need a ride? Want to get high? No, thank you, I would say. I'd be on the phone with my boyfriend at the time, and he's like, why do you say no thank you? Why are you so polite to them? And I said, because to an addict, sharing your drugs is a nice thing. It's the way you can show, like, hey, I want to be friends with you. Let me share with you. That person didn't know that I was clean. That person doesn't know what life I've gone through. I'm just walking down the road in a backpack, looking like I do. I got the offers. And that's a test. How much you really want it. Because one of those days I could have just said, yeah. And I didn't, because I didn't want that life. I don't want that life. I know how to do it wrong, and that's exactly how I would do it wrong. I just said, no thank you, I don't do that, bye. And I walk, and sometimes the ride would be really nice because I'm walking miles. But you do what you gotta do to get what you want. I did what I wanted to do to get my drugs. When I really wanted to get clean, I'm gonna do just as hard to stay clean. While being in the sober living and going to outpatient and all that, right away, I believe like the first week and a half, one of my best friends got run over by a car. And I'm not a very, I know this is different, but I'm not a very open person. I don't talk to people about my feelings. And I got the phone call. I was in the house living room. And I quietly cried, like on the couch. And one of the girls came in and just happened to see. And it was really nice, because that would have been a day that I, death is a trigger. That would have been a day that I would have went out. And I didn't. I didn't want to go for heroin, but I definitely wanted to go out and smoke weed. But one thing can lead you to the next. One little bit of alcohol can bring you right back to the drug that you're trying to avoid. But I wanted to smoke at least. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about my friend. The girls, they were really good. They hugged me. And they stayed with me and made sure I didn't go out that night. Have a good support system. I have a support system of people that are going to be there for you when you really need it. Or even see that you need someone without you even telling them. I'm very weird with emotions. Ever since I was little. I guess because I cried so much. I was a very emotional child. I got to a point where I stifled it. Just like I am now. Or my throat hurts. Because I'm holding in my cry. I don't like to be seen crying. I don't like people to know what's going on in my life. I'm a very hidden person. So that's what makes this really hard. But I want to help you. I want to help you see that it's going to be hard, but it's not any harder than the life you've been living. Just because you're used to it, of homelessness and couch surfing and you're trying to scrounge up money some way, just because you're used to it doesn't mean it's not difficult. It just means you're used to it. You can train your brain to make it used to something else. I'm still struggling with not going back to sleep. That's my go-to. If I was having a bad day, I would just go back to sleep, because maybe when I wake up, it'll be a little better. I've wasted so much time in my life doing that. And I don't want to do that anymore. I take a nap during the day, and that's it. My kids come home. It's harder to clean because it is messing. It's harder to record. I can't record. I try not to say I can't. I try to be a yes person. Say yes to life. But not everything you need to say yes to. I didn't say yes to those car rides. I said yes to walking. I said yes to sobriety. An addiction, no matter what kind it is, it's just a symptom. Mental illness, I can't say for anybody else. I could just say for me, it's a lot easier to maintain now. When I start to feel something coming on, I used to just go for a drug to fix it. But it just made it so much harder, so much rougher and worse and longer of an episode. I avoid that now by working through it. I'm here for you. Please comment, like, subscribe. Let me know how you're doing.